Miss Mira, Miss Mira, can I just come and ask you a question? Can you please be ready to watch the live stream? So I don't need to. easy that is. This is it. Lower your down after this minute right now, and you cannot leave. So make sure you want to be in here because you're stuck for 8 times 6 and 5. 6, 6. You're stuck here for an hour. Flip side.
What is your passion? As a kid, my answer to this question changed every day. One day it was turtles, the next dolphins, and maybe in a month's time it would be dancing. Nowadays, my answer to this question is a little different. I usually can't come up with an answer at all. I've started to believe that there is no answer to this question, no matter how many times it's asked. We're constantly under fire. Go to a university that offers something you're passionate about. The only way to feel fulfilled in your career is to work for something you're passionate about. Passion this, passion that. If you do a quick search on Google on just the word passion, you get no less than 2 billion hits. But does anyone know what passion means? What it implies? Passion has become the go-to answer for almost anything. Take this for example. I was asking around for some topics I could write a speech about. The answer I got was astonishing. I was told to write something I was passionate about. So that's exactly what I did. I wondered, why do we constantly have to be on the lookout? We spend so much time looking and not enough time simply living. Chase your passion. Countless times, I've heard this advice dished out as motivation by my relatives. After their persistent interrogations about universities, I tend to give them a blank stare. I'm usually thinking about which way I'm going to answer their question. I could go 2 ways. First, I could give them the answer they want, list some pretty well-recognized universities, even throw in a few Ivy Leagues to really impress them. Or, I could be brutally honest, give them no answer whatsoever. I usually go with the latter, which, just like clockwork, is followed by the very original advice involving, you guessed it, passion. Is this advice really as inspiring as it seems on Pinterest boards? The answer is no. If you take this advice literally, it makes it seem like there's only one passion to find. This results in a more closed mindset, making it harder for you to stay motivated and overcome burdens. You were led to believe that finding a passion would be a simple chase and grab. According to Stanford researchers in 2017, this advice could even make you less successful. In a study, they gathered over 400 students who were interested in a variety of topics, including science, STEM, humanities, and the arts. These students were given materials such as papers and videos on the several topics. Students who were deeply passionate about one topic were unable to finish the rest of the material. In this scenario, their passion was a distraction. If you live with the mold, with the idea that there's just one mold made for you, you're making it harder for yourself to keep your eye out for potential interests when you believe you found the one. Perhaps I want to submerge myself in the world of business, but that doesn't mean I have to stop thinking about journalism. Passions are restricting us from exploring different topics. So why are they still enforced by our social circles? The reason is passions are seen as a point of stability and the whirlwind we refer to as life. We're all in a hurry to find a passion that we believe will automatically arrange our future and clear all our confusion. As surprising as it sounds, it just doesn't work that way. According to the Journal of Vocational Behavior in 2007, this hunt for your one true calling only results in higher numbers of students being lost and confused. Students are left gasping for air as they are submerged in a world of choices they seem to have no control over. As a 16-year-old student, I'm expected to responsibly and accurately pick my APs for next year. I have to choose what I feel passionate about, what I want to prioritize, and how to polish my school record to be fished out by a great university. But it's a lot more complicated than simply ticking a box in a course selection survey. Humans are continuously changing. I know that because the person I am today would not recognize the one I was last year, or the year before that. The teenage years are not a place for stability and rationality. In fact, according to the University of Rochester's Medical Center, the prefrontal cortex, the area in the brain responsible for making these rational decisions, does not fully develop until the age of 25. So finding a passion may seem like a solution, but it's really a puzzle, an extremely difficult puzzle with missing pieces. There's no answer to this enigma, no matter how many times it's asked or how many times we need that point of stability. In the world of business, failure is common. In the world of passion, it's taboo. The idea surrounding passion makes it seem like that passion can only be a success. This summer, I took an entrepreneurship course at IE University and found out that 90% of all startups fail. A similar article dating back to 2018 on Harvard Business Review highlights the importance of failure for well-known companies like Google. The business strategy, intelligent fast failure, mimics exactly what failure can do to help people succeed. Intelligent fast failure is when a company purposely releases an unfinished product to the market so it can fail early on. This way, they can make adjustments tailored from the feedback of their target audience without investing too much money. The more they fail, the more feedback they receive, and the more likely they'll be able to create a successful product for the market. If we step away from the idea that passion is a winning lottery ticket, we can use an intelligent fast failure to explore different interests, knowing they might fail. I guess if you were to find your so-called passion, you'd have to ask yourself, what is a passion? I can tell you it's not. A passion is not something you think can be safe or reliable for the future. It's not something that's profitable or held in high esteem. And it's not something that will make you feel like an adequate child for your parents to brag about over brunch. Because as parents, they'll always find an excuse to brag about you. A passion does not need to be defined, and it certainly doesn't have to be a singular. We all deserve to give ourselves a break from the pressure that pushes us to find it. Unfortunately, your passion won't occur to you in a giant neon illuminated sign. But perhaps one day you may find a small sticky note with an interest that's colored your name. It'll be followed by another and another one after that. It's up to you to decide if you let them pile up or leaf through them one by one. Thank you.
She'll start. Okay.
Close your eyes. Imagine that one shy person that you've always thought to be an introvert. Now put them in a suit in the center of a stage, donning the role of a leader. Isn't it odd, counterintuitive, awkward even? Well, you're not alone in thinking so. So what does come to mind when you think of a leader? Is it the CEO who exudes his presence into every room he walks in? Or is it the dominant and dynamic world leader who dominates your evening news? Our culture and society, specifically in business and politics, seems to adore this idea of a charismatic and confident leader who is able to decisively lead a band of star-struck followers. This stereotypical view of an extroverted individual has been what we as a society have perceived with our perception of a leader for as long as we can remember. And it's this thought that discourages many from stepping up to the plate. So the question that needs to be asked now, more than ever, is if being an introvert is the one thing that makes or breaks who our leaders can and cannot be. So introverts, most likely not the first candidate looked at while hiring a CEO or voting for president. The type of people who prefer to be alone with their thoughts, get their energy from solitude, quiet but creative, and think before they speak. No number of phrases can truly define around 40% of our global population, but in a nutshell, that is what an introvert is. And what shouldn't be so surprising is that they can be leaders too. But aren't introverts simply too reserved and shy to be stepping up and making decisions important for when you are a leader? Well, that's where we may have all gotten the wrong idea. It's quite simple. Introverts, unlike extroverts, when tasked with a problem, react consciously by thinking first, then acting. In a study conducted by Rihanna Khalil, a notable psychologist from Qasim University, Saudi Arabia, found that in a pool of 370 people categorized as either introverted or extroverted with the use of the Eysenck personality questionnaire, almost 3/4 of extroverts needed someone to steer them in the right direction while making decisions, whilst more than 3/4 of introverts relied solely on their intuition, inner feelings, and reactions. We've all been the party to the effects of poor and hasty decision-making, and many a times the decisions that our leaders take govern the very ways in which we live. Now before I continue, take a moment and picture this quiet little girl, raised in a family of blaring and charismatic socialites, but just feeling invisible. Imagine being written off as that one girl who wants to sit in the back seat, when really, the steering wheel is her dream. That's what it's like growing up as an introvert, aspiring to be a leader, and I can attest to that. Alright, so introverts like you and that quiet little girl prefer your solitude and your alone time. But doesn't that prevent you from reaching out and making the connections and relationships important for when you are a leader? Well, it's true that introverts can often seem disconnected from other people, rude, unable, or unwilling to build personal connections. But in reality, the connections that introverts build just happen to be focused on different priorities. While they may not be openly conversational and may seem slightly shy and reserved in large groups in crowded settings, introverts are actually excellent and efficient at developing deeper and more meaningful connections. How? Well, they believe in genuine relationship building. This is through understanding the needs of the people. This allows them to be more in tune with each and every member of the team, every demand and need of the client, and what exactly the public's interests may be. But given the dominant and dynamic natural traits that extroverts possess, aren't they the ones naturally fit for the job? Well, not only is that belief incorrect, it doesn't present the whole picture. In a study conducted by Yale's Department of Psychology, of 57 store managers of a national pizza chain in the US, stores managed by introverts yielded a 14% higher weekly profit than those of extroverts. The same pattern was repeated in an experimental study wherein college students were participating in a t-shirt folding competition. Participants were 28% more proactive under an introverted leader than an extroverted one. But that begs the question of why? Well, researchers suggest that this is due to the fact that introverts are more likely to allow proactive and enthusiastic employees run with their ideas, whereas extrovert leaders may feel slightly threatened. Well, why does any of this really matter? Well, it's because in the real world, introverts and extroverts aren't given the same playing field. Organizations and companies have been proven to likely hire individuals who are assertive, go-getting, and able to seize the day. But this ostracizes many from the table, and oftentimes the best candidate may not get the role. Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying extroverts shouldn't be leaders. But we, as a society, have programmed introverts into believing that they'll never make it in a cutthroat world, that they'll never matter compared to their extroverted counterpart. But in reality, that's just cataloging real people into polar opposite binaries of personality traits. But in reality, the world isn't black or white. The solution? It's simple. Change the system. Schools from an early age must provide leadership programs that do not base merit solely on the loudest and most confident speaker, but rather the one who is able to manage a team and manage them well. From there, institutions must recognize leadership to be a more versatile characteristic in a human being, rather than just pinhole it down to a narrow definition derived from an age-old stereotype. Now, remember that quiet little girl? She grew up to be one of the pioneers of the second wave of feminism, the leader who championed the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, and the woman who single-handedly transformed the role of not just what it meant to be the first lady of the United States of America, but also what it meant to be an introverted woman in what used to be a man's world. And her name is Anna Eleanor Roosevelt, the introvert who wouldn't keep quiet. From a young age, she was always told that she would always be invisible compared to her extroverted counterpart. But every action, every decision, and every living breath that she took defied that very belief. And knowing that at the other end of the TV may be sitting another quiet little child looking to defy the norms of what it meant to be an introverted leader, she once famously said, "You must do the thing you think you cannot do." Thank you. And they lived happily ever after. The end. Every night, as a blanket of stars ornament the sky, millions of little boys and girls all over the world fall asleep to the inexplicable sense of satisfaction, knowing that brave knights had rescued their beautiful princesses, that the earth was safe from demons. I vividly recall being tucked into my covers every evening in anticipation of my father arriving home from work, reading me a story, and kissing me goodnight. Sadly, this tradition began to fade away as the pains of maturing overtook the satiety fairy tales gave me. The seemingly lamentable aging came hand in hand with actuality, Poles apart from the fiction I spent my childhood dreaming about. Real life princesses are those who use their voices to evoke change in this patriarchal society, instead of relinquishing them for the love of a man. Where stepmothers are less than nasty, more inspiring, nurturing, and ones to be grateful for. Where lying can be detrimental, and unfortunately, not all our wishes can be fulfilled by the swish of a wand. French author Edmond de Goncourt's famous quote, "People don't like true and simple, they like fairy tales and humbug," certainly provokes thought. Are these fairy tales truly an asset to one's wit? Or do they simply divert a child's creativity towards an ideal, misshaped fantasy they confuse for real life? Well, listen up closely, everybody. Not so long ago, in a world not so far away, people have been acquainted with the idea that fairy tales distort a young mind's perception of reality. Now, whether or not the story has a happy ending, only time will tell. Cinderella? Snow White? What are those? An illness? Author of the global phenomenon Harry Potter, Joanne K. Rowling brought to light how some of these fairy tales set unreasonably high standards for beauty and appeal. How unfortunate is it that only 2% of the women worldwide consider themselves to be beautiful? That when I close my eyes, the word princess translates to a perfect body and a fancy ball gown, not a kind heart and a spirited soul. Imagine. Imagine a little girl holding up her mirror, unable to find skin as white as snow or lips as red as blood, or a voice so splendid that the birds chirp along to her songs. Think about it. Think about your boys, your sons. All their lives, males have been fostered in an environment that promotes violence, that glorifies aggression they mistake for bravery, or enforces a sense of pride they confuse for masculinity. No wonder some of the men in our society are duped to this utopia wherein they believe that their physical strength and social upliftment entitle them to an anti-feminist ideology. Cinderella and Snow White, two iconic personalities in the history of Western literature, made their first appearances in the age-old Brothers Grimm publishing. They have been adapted several times since. Snow White, a young lass sent into exile by her evil stepmother for conjuring jealousy of her beauty, then rescued by 7 dwarfs, then sent into a coma by her shape-shifting stepmother, and finally saved by her Prince Charming. Cinderella, on the other hand, was abandoned by her stepfather and left to the vices of her evil stepmother and stepsisters, who treated her as a servant, until she was rescued by her fairy godmother, who sent her to the royal ball, where she fell in love with the prince and left him alone as a clock-struck girl, and was finally rediscovered by the prince on his town-wide search for the girl with the matching glass slipper. Now, besides the fact that both these women encompass the ability to talk with animals, they share a common enemy and a common hero. That is the cunning stepmother and the beloved Prince Charming. Similar tropes can be viewed in other fairy tales, including Hansel and Gretel and the Ugly Duckling, whose appearance determines how he is accepted by others. From the Brothers Grimm to the internet era, our approach as a race towards conceptualized characterization has certainly failed to cope with time. A study conducted by Professor Sarah Coy of Brigham Young University, Utah, on June 20, 2016, assessed the impacts of Disney on 198 preschoolers. While 96% of the girls, as opposed to 87% of the boys, were aware of Disney's enterprises, only 4% of the boys, as opposed to 91% of the girls, played with their merchandise on a weekly basis. That too with the severe disparity of feminine toys like tea sets and dollhouses, as opposed to cars and action figures. Doesn't this say something? Now think about this. Think about all these children who are duped to the idea that these fairy tales translate to the real world. Ariel Silver, a student at Antioch University, Los Angeles, 2015, submitted a case study of a troubled American stepmother, Laura, who explained that she had negative, Disney-induced associations with the concept of a stepmother, which overrid her experiences being one. Winding the same struggle back 30 years, 1985, Julie Hubbard, then subordinate to the US Secretary of State Henry Kissinger, married Henry Hubbard and has 3 children. She recalls her first Christmas with the family. The independent, bright, and capable young woman was left in shambles just months into her matrimony. That Christmas evening, the children completely disregarded her ability and her efforts into bringing the family together. They excluded her from all their traditions. But Who can blame the children, right? After all, we're just young, innocent, and completely unaware of the repercussions of our actions. Mirror, mirror on the wall, what has caused this atrocity after all? It is the ugly archetypes that these fairy tales propose. This anecdotal tragedy persists in several households today. It is this literature that blinded these young boys and girls from appreciating a capable young woman. Now, although I wholeheartedly recognize the efforts of contemporary media channels to break away from years of stereotypes through modern productions like Frozen 2013 or Brave 2012, where Elsa, Anna, and Merida are far from what we've accepted as beautiful. They redefine grace and praxis. They're their own allies and their own enemies. However, the efficacy of the media and their timeliness and their ability to change millions of lives is certainly debatable. Now, I do agree, these fairy tales do impart some valuable morals through a multitude of characters and plots. However, readers must highlight the negative archetypes surrounding stepmothers, societal roles for both genders, and appeal, amongst many others. With this being said and done, every little boy and girl all over the world can live just happily ever after. No, they can live happily informed thereafter. Thank you. Growing up, I remember watching an advertisement on television over and over again, never tired of it. This simple ad for a telecom company left a profound impact on me. In a rural village in India, a group of small children huddled around a tiny phone, their eager faces staring at the screen. Miles away from any institution, this phone had become their teacher, classroom, and school, all in one. As a child, I vividly recall the gooseflesh I had every single time I thought of the power of the internet and the ability it had to connect people anywhere and everywhere. An idea can indeed change your life. All those years ago, the internet was built with the inspiration and aspiration to democratize society. Social media was created as a way to bridge the gap between the millions of disenfranchised people whose voices were lost in the crowd. Social media aimed to be the way through which disempowered people could make their voices heard. If you had something to say, you could say it. The internet would make sure of that. If there was any information you wanted, the knowledge would reach you, and no power could stop it. While the concept of free expression has existed for centuries and has been an integral part of our society, these social media platforms have truly redefined what it means. At its very core, the internet was built for free expression. But all these years later, I now ask you, has this tool truly put power into the wrong hands? Many of you will argue otherwise, saying that social media today is as much the platform for free expression, maybe even more so than what it used to be years ago. But I will prove to you otherwise. For any number of free-thinking people on social media, there are many more organized bunches of haters who are targeting, silencing, outshouting, and bullying all those they disagree with. Hidden behind their screens, organizations and people are impersonating regular people like you and me. There's an invasion of troll arms whose sole purpose is to bully their opponents, spread misinformation, and post fake texts. All for a little pocket change. Yes, you heard that right. Entire organizations of trolls cash in on their services every single day. In fact, social media has become an organized vehicle for violence. Our screens are powerful tools for good.
until they start serving as platforms for those faceless trolls spewing words of hate. The metamorphosis of free expression on social media has truly been terrifying, from a platform of liberation to a platform of oppression. And where there was an opportunity to engage, in swoop the hungry tech organizations with their algorithms. Algorithms and AI have ensured that we are monitored and mapped, and what we like and who we follow is fed to us over and over again in a never-ending cycle. Little by little, we have walled ourselves into this echo chamber of similar thoughts and preconceived notions. These power-hungry bots have successfully manipulated the backends of all of our favorite social media applications and subconsciously altered and influenced us in ways we cannot even fathom. Entire business plans for tech corporations have been run on these very algorithms to generate more data and more revenue. Elections have been won, fake news has been popularized, and violent agendas have been pushed on the backs of this. Gone are the days when social media was a platform to democratize debate and spread multiple viewpoints. Algorithmic manipulation has officially taken over. But what's even worse is when the violence in the virtual world spills into the real one. In May 2017, in India, a chain of shocking messages was circulated on WhatsApp, a popular messaging platform. In these texts, fingers were pointed at several members of local communities, calling them out for heinous crimes such as child abduction and organ harvesting. Spreading like wildfire, soon these weren't just a series of texts anymore. They had become reality. Dozens of lynchings took place around the country. Innocent civilians were targeted, all because of a few simple social media interactions. A false rumor had cost countless lives. In a study conducted by Gabriel Wyman, a renowned professor of communications and a terrorism expert, Wyman stated that nearly 90% of organized terrorism activities take place via social media. Platforms such as YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook are used to spread their messages, to recruit members, and gather intelligence. The infamous terror organization ISIS has used more than 100 sites to spread their terror messages, whether in the form of violent beheading videos, threats, etc. Their online presence is truly horrifying. Countless other organizations such as Al-Qaeda and Boko Haram have used their online presence for one sole purpose: radicalization. But are we just going to stand by and allow social media to take away our freedom of expression? How can we make sure that these platforms are not misused? Well, there is no simple answer to this tech and social conundrum. But we can begin by the creation of a set of standards or regulations that tech corporations must sign up for. Governments all around the world must enforce basic common policy changes to ensure that social media does not fall prey to money power and manipulation. Another interesting angle on this is community moderation. UN Special Advisor David Kane proposes the involvement of communities, nonprofits, and social organizations to bring in more transparency and to increase the application of fundamental human rights as a set standard. What this translates to in terms of actionables is a good, healthy debate that we all must be having on these platforms. Social media, my friends, is a value neutral. How you use it influences the value it brings to you. If the voices of hate are allowed to harness the power of these platforms, then the result is violence. But if we use these platforms for the greater common good, we can even write the constitution of a country together. Thank you.
Yeah, can you name my partner? Yes, you can. Okay, thank you. I just realized I think I was, and then my hand will go after. Okay.
As I was researching on the internet, specifically how to write an interesting introduction to a speech, I thought to myself, perhaps Google is taking this search and integrating it into a profile that they have created of me. Judging by this fact, it seems now that I have become the product of Google, and they're most likely selling this information to other major corporations as I am speaking. So, the old saying, you know yourself better than anyone else, might become obsolete as the internet evolves and attains more information about us. With the uses of databases such as Cambridge Analytica, using data analysis to manipulate processes such as elections through advertising, some may argue against the internet monitoring our activity and information flow. Yet, this just might not be as much of a negative concept as it seems at first glance. You may be taken aback by my statement. Of course, we all know the book 1984 by English author George Orwell. In his famous novel, Orwell describes a society in which citizens are under constant surveillance by their government, a world that is to be avoided at all costs, as we all essentially have a need for privacy at different degrees. After all, who'd want their every move tracked by their government? Ultimately, this is a dystopian novel, and we should bear in mind its warnings. While the concept of privacy might vary from one person to another, according to Merriam-Webster's Law Dictionary, the definition of privacy is, quote, freedom from unauthorized intrusion. What if intrusion was authorized? Then the question becomes, when should we give up our privacy to the internet? What would it cost us to sacrifice our right to isolation from public scrutiny for maximizing cybersecurity and enhancing healthcare? What if we knew our information was being accumulated? Let's take Google as an example. Google has a service called Google Flu Transit that tracks outbreaks in a region and reports the information to clinics. The service dynamics are based on analyzing search history patterns and synthesizing searches to track the outbreaks. Yuval Noah Harari, author of Homo Deus, a book encapsulating the agenda and future of humanity, mentioned that the service, even with certain limitations, such as not reading private emails of individuals, is capable of knowing when an outbreak is on the rise roughly 10 days before any other conventional health service. But the key to actually putting the service into use is by implementing our information into databases such as Google. Suppose an epidemic such as cholera were on the rise, a disease that the World Health Organization classifies as a global threat. Just think of how many consequences the service can help us avoid with the act of predicting and possibly reversing the rise of such epidemics. Enhancing healthcare, of course, is only one of the few goals we can achieve through using the internet. Unfortunately, in our contemporary world, a child can be just a few clicks away from the risk of being exposed to inappropriate content, cyber stalkers, cyber predators, and many more. Bearing in mind, there is the option of completely isolating the child from the use of technology. But if you look at our school, every student is required to attend school with technological equipment, whether it be a phone or a laptop, as we carry out many functions and assignments using technology on a daily basis. According to Keylog Review, quote, 82% of sex crimes involving a minor are initiated from social sites. What if databases such as Google could take on the role of a cyber guardian and filter content for the protection of minors on the internet? Would it be worth giving up our privacy on the internet for the protection of minors from harmful and possibly threatening content? Google Trends is another service that has been effective in collecting data off of searches to provide the public with statistics on a variety of subjects, such as social issues, political issues, cultural issues, and even subjects such as clothing trends. One of the issues that the service discusses is that of gun rights in the United States. The service claims that the issue of gun rights and gun control in the United States has become a major political and cultural matter. In addition, the service also provides the ratio of gun shops to gun control in the United States as of 2019. Considering that this is public data, schools, governments, individuals, and even entire communities can use these statistics for tackling their social issues, their political issues, their economic issues, any issues really. Evidently, there are quite a few benefits to having an outside source monitoring our content. But as for human rights, there have been numerous complaints concerning our human rights and governments as well as databases monitoring internet activity. The Declaration of Human Rights, established by the United Nations General Assembly, claims that we have the right to freedom of expression, opinion, and the right to privacy, along with many more. But nevertheless,
With these rights comes responsibility, specifically with what we choose to search and display on the internet. In fact, Google's Terms of Service site claims that, quote, you are responsible for the activity that happens on or through your Google account, and that essentially what you choose to search and display on the internet can be used to modify and filter content tailored to your profile. In essence, Google quite clearly informs us of its policies. So is it really considered a violation of privacy if one voluntarily displays anything on the internet? If we give consent to databases on the internet and use these forces for good, such as for maximizing cybersecurity and enhancing healthcare, then maybe it is worth giving up some of our privacy. This is not a science experiment where researchers collect a small group of people and run a controlled experiment. This is the internet, a whole virtual world, harvesting a large number of data points at an elevated level of accuracy. So, although giving up our privacy on the internet seems like the last thing we want to do, data collection might just be our ally in this virtual world that we have created. Keeping in mind our beliefs, such as that every individual is entitled to privacy, and recognizing the warnings of novels such as 1984, by giving consent to databases on the internet for acquiring data, we can reach unprecedented heights in the world we know today. Thank you.
Close your eyes and picture a human being. Now picture a doctor, now a lawyer, now a scientist. Open your eyes and tell me honestly, were you picturing men or women? It's okay, I was picturing men too, and I'm a feminist. In 1920, the 19th Amendment of the US Constitution was ratified, granting women in the United States the right to vote. Next year marks 100 years since this monumental bill was passed. In those 100 years, we've made incredible leaps and fostered historic change. Women's rights movements like Time's Up and #MeToo circulating through social media have gone viral. Today, women can own and inherit property on the same terms as a man, serve in a jury, open a bank account, apply for a loan, become an accountant or a lawyer, report rape, and be considered a person in the eyes of the law. Today, more than ever, there are people working to remove institutional sexism and empower women and girls starting at a young age. So, why do we still feel so marginalized? I have a job teaching some lessons here in Amman to a mix of local Jordanians and international students. Including myself, there are about 8 other instructors who teach 60 kids every single night. But out of the 8 instructors, I'm the only woman. Sexism and gender inequality are so deeply embedded into our society that we barely even notice they exist. My boss would probably be horrified if I attributed his choice of coaches as sexism. But in reality, gender impacts so many parts of our day-to-day lives in ways that we barely even realize. We are literally living in a world designed for men. As a woman, the minute you step into a car, you're at a higher risk of dying than a man. A study done by the University of Virginia in 2015 found that cars are actually designed for men. The positioning of these head restraints, women's shorter height, different neck strength and musculature, as well as women's preferred seating position, means that women are 47% more likely to suffer severe injuries in a car crash and 17% more likely to die, because all of the safety features are designed for men. But it's not just cars and other transportation vehicles. A study done by the University of Pennsylvania School of Medicine in 2017 found that men are 23% more likely to survive resurrection in public. The data showed that people are uncomfortable performing CPR on an unfamiliar woman because it requires touching the chest. People don't know what to do when they encounter a woman who needs CPR because we all learn CPR on male mannequins. Well, why aren't there any female CPR mannequins? Because we live in a world built for men. In the 1960s, a formula was developed to determine standard office temperature around the metabolic rate of the average man. But a recent study published in the journal Nature found that the metabolic rate of women can be up to 35% lower than that of a man. This amounts to almost a 5-degree temperature difference, meaning that women who work in offices are constantly being placed in an uncomfortable and inhospitable environment, just because of a gender-biased design. 2 NASA astronauts were scheduled to make history earlier this year by becoming the first women to walk in space unaccompanied by men. Astronauts Anna Plain and Christina Koch were scheduled to take the first ever all-female spacewalk, but their plans were canceled when they discovered that only 2 out of the 6 spacesuits were actually functioning. Both women needed a size medium, and there was only one size medium spacesuit functioning, so they had to go on their spacewalk separately, accompanied by a male astronaut. Further research into this topic found that NASA only designs 3 sizes of spacesuits: medium, large, and extra large, completely overlooking the fact that most women wear a small or a medium, and proving that yet again, we live in a world built for men. Even bathrooms in public places are unequal between the genders. Most bathrooms are given the same amount of floor space, which may seem fair and equitable at first, but think again. Men's bathrooms have both cubicles and stalls, making the number of people who can relieve themselves in a male restroom far higher than that in a female restroom. But even if the number of stalls were to be made equal, the issue still wouldn't be solved because women take up to 2.3 times as long as men to use the bathroom. Women make up the majority of the elderly and the disabled, 2 groups who tend to need a longer time in the bathroom. Women are also more likely to be accompanied by children to the bathroom. Then there's the 20 to 25% of women of childbearing age who are on their period and will need to change a tampon or a pad. We are living in a world where something as simple as bathrooms are built for men. But then there's the little things, like the fact that even though women's hands are on average 3 centimeters smaller than a man's, the average smartphone today is 14 centimeters, which is comfortable for a man's hand, but practically the same size as a woman's hand. Even certain features on your smartphone are male biased. Rachel Kapman, a linguistics researcher at the University of Washington, found that Google's speech recognition software is 70% more likely to accurately identify male speech. When Apple first launched Siri, users found that she could help you find Viagra suppliers or prostitutes, but when you told her you'd been raped, she simply replied with, "I don't know what you mean by I have been raped." Just think about that for a second. All of this comes back to one thing. We're living in a world built for men, and that needs to change. The underlying cause of this gender inequality is in the harmful gender and social norms existing in most societies today. The male bias wired into our brains no longer surprises me. As a society, we simply fail to realize 51% of the population exists. Even if it isn't deliberate, this gender inequality has a serious impact on women's lives. The effects ranging from inconvenient to fatal. Real change can't happen until these implicit gender biases are broken down. Because the problem is, we're trying to be feminists in a world designed for men. So, how can we change this? It's simple. We must put value into women. When you put value into a person, it empowers them. It makes them want to put their own effort and value into themselves, their work, and their life. So the next time a woman asks you for something, listen to her. Believe her. Because she wouldn't be asking without good reason. Only when we can do this will we no longer live in a world built for men, but a world built for people. Thank you.
We can't have a tie, it's just us, right? Oh, yeah, we can't, no, because.
I guess we could.
Oh, we could tie. Oh, yeah, if we all gave the same second or
Yeah.
first or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or however.
Right, yeah, I don't know, yeah, because I think, so you have to go the numbers. And also it will be, since there's going to be at least, what, three-fourths places, then it might, I don't really know, but,
Oh, sure, there's after 3 is visible.
right. Yeah, so then, yeah, I haven't chosen, then, I don't know if we should do that, if we really need, I don't know, but I'm just sticking it in just to make sure. You know, I can come less, I can come. I was supposed to call and just, you know, I took a number between 1 and 10. I don't know. Oh, that's right, yeah.
For those speeches from heart.
And it's like, I don't remember what it was, but I'll do it. I could sing the telegram.
Yeah, right.
I could sing that singing telegram. But the thing is, you're the music.
Is it right now?
Oh, yeah, we have to
Start it.